and about her family. Well, an Orson Welles film that he finished, well, kind of, in 1977, has finally seen the light of day at the Telluride Film Festival in Colorado at the weekend. The Other Side of the Wind was filmed between 1970 and 1977, but it became subject to legal battles after Welles died in 1985. It became a Hollywood legend, mostly because nobody had really seen it, but also because it's a pretty good satire on Hollywood, as one understands it. Ray Kelly is the manager of WellsNet, a website dedicated to the life, career, and work of Orson Welles. Hello, Ray.
Hello, Rhod. How are you?
Very good. Now, this is a strange business, isn't it? Why was it never released at the time?
Well, at the time, Orson Welles filmed it between 1970 and 1976. He finished his principal photography. He had to rely on several sources of funding. He worked some of those movies that a lot of us consider awful in TV commercials. He did that to raise money to pay for the movie. He also had some investments that were embezzled, allegedly, and he had to deal with that. And finally, he had financing from the family of the Shah of Iran. And when the Iranian government was overthrown in the Islamic Revolution, well, the whole ownership question came down to who owned it, the members of the royal family, or was it owned by the new Islamic government? And that had to be sorted out in the French courts, which had the negative put in storage while the court battles raged on. And after they were settled after Welles's death, but then there was a new problem. There was investments from the Iranian financiers. He had left his share to his longtime companion, Oya Kodar, and his daughter, Beatrice, through the estate, had a claim as to its fate. And so a lot of people, beginning in the 1990s, there was an effort to get it made by Showtime, and a lot of famous people took stabs at this, but no one could untangle it. And like I said, there was a lot of famous names on this 50-year journey, but it was a patient young producer, Philip Jan Risma, who was able to untangle these legal rights and get permission from Oya Kodar and Beatrice Welles, and he secured and closed the deal with Netflix, who, without their funding, none of this would have been possible.
And was this like the Unfinished Symphony? I mean, when he actually picked it up, was it in a finishable state?
Well, Orson had wanted the movie to be about 2 hours or less running time. He had edited 40 minutes of the scenes. He also left behind detailed notes and scripts. And during the filming, he had turned to Peter Bogdanovich, who plays a very key role in the film and was a great director in his own right. Yeah. And he asked Peter if you would finish this film if something ever happened to me. So Peter is very actively involved with Frank Marshall, who has gone on to do films like Jurassic World, the Bourne films, and the Raiders of the Lost Ark series. But Frank Marshall was a line producer back in the 70s and worked on this film with Orson. So it's really been put together by people who knew him well and had his notes and knew what he was intending to do.
So here we are then, with a film that's actually been shown. What kind of a reception did it get at the weekend at Telluride?
I would say critics have been very positive. If we trust the Rotten Tomatoes aggregate score, it's running a 100% review among critics. I think the audiences at Telluride were very respectful and into it. It's a complex film. Just to explain, the film predates the found footage genre we see now with stuff like Blair Witch Project or Cloverfield. The film takes us through the last 24 hours in the life of a famous director who's attempting to make his comeback movie. And we see his last 24 hours shot through a number of amateur footage, 16 millimeter and so forth, shot by people at his birthday party, at his 70th birthday party. So we see footage, black and white, color, still photos. It's kind of a mosaic, a cinematic mosaic. And that had this jigsaw puzzle, so to speak, had to be pieced together carefully to convey what Orson Welles intended.
So very interesting, isn't it? And is it anything like? I was just thinking about The Player, which was Robert Altman's satire on Hollywood. Is it anything like that in its intent?
It's a very sharp satire on Hollywood. What Wells was talking about in the movie, it's a real slapdown of the macho male figure, and actually with the whole Me Too movement right now, it fits in well with that. But it's a slapdown of the old macho kind of director, and it's a sharp poke in the eye at was the new Hollywood of the 70s, the era of the Easy Rider, Raging Bulls era. So Wells has a shot at the young guys coming up and a little slap down to the studio system that had treated him so badly. It is a very dark satire. It's sharp and quite witty.
What does John Huston play? The great director, John Huston.
Oh, John Huston is wonderful. John Huston plays a character named Jake Hannaford, who's modeled after Ernest Hemingway, and a little dash of Wells, and a little dash of Huston himself. And as Wells described him, he's a miserable, and we'll use the word SOB, but he's cantankerous, hard-drinking, and what he's done is he's putting together this witted comeback film to appeal to young audiences and show he's still got it. And it's an uphill battle. And during this process, his world starts falling apart. The studio's anxious to see the movie. It's run over budget. The leading man has walked off the film. And really, the character of Jake Hannaford his world is crashing down on him at that point.
I wonder. It's another film about Wells, isn't it? It's really.
Wells claimed this movie was not autobiographical, but my God, it sure seems it, doesn't it? It was a very. He even described the character of Hannaford as being a bit like himself, but there's a lot of Hemingway in the character. Wells isn't a big game hunter, macho, swaggering guy, but he definitely is a maverick director, and Jake Hannaford is a maverick. He's also very politically incorrect. He's very old school and rough around the edges, and he's not terribly likable, but I'd say it's one of Huston's best performances, probably up there with the performance he gave in Chinatown.
Well, it makes you quite keen to see it. Which will be when, by the way, Ray?
Well, right now it played at the Telluride and Venice Film Festivals, and Netflix is going to give it a limited theatrical release on November 2nd, and it will be streaming on Netflix to 130 million subscribers in 190 countries, which makes this probably the largest opening Orson Welles could have ever had in his career. It's amazing the amount of people who will be able to see a new Orson Welles movie 33 years after his death.
Ray Callie, great pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much.
My pleasure, Rod. Thank you.
Bye-bye. And Ray's website is wellsnet.com, which is everything you ever wanted to know about Orson Welles. Well, on Friday, the U.S. State Department stopped all funding to the Palestinian refugee agency UNRWA.